What's up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome into another episode of Crunch Time with Kruck. We're a little light this week on guest appearances. We're down to just Cory, Castaneda, and Brock Guse. Tim Hackett is probably going to be done for this season now that he's finished up NHL. We're currently in the process of looking for other things that he could tackle, potentially the Olympics, but we'll get back to you later on that. Papa Kruck stepping aside this week. He's going to let me try to tackle the golf world, so we're going to see how that works. But we still have baseball talk with Guse and basketball talk with Cory. So let's jump right into the beef of the show with some sports. The Olympics are coming up, and man, things are looking good. Here are some athletes that you should honestly be aware of going into the Olympics. First and foremost, the GOAT of gymnastics, Simone Biles. At only 24 years of age, she's a 5-time world all-around champion and the defending Olympic champ. She has been the best in the gymnastic world since 2016, and it's amazing because when she won it, she was only 18 years old, which is why she's 24 now for those who aren't the math wizards in the world. That's why you're listening to a sports podcast. And I mean, it's crazy to think about an 18-year-old kid growing up and being the greatest gymnast ever at 18 and then continuing it for 6 years. It's almost a dynasty just by herself, really. You look at the Patriots in the 2010s, they were a dynasty because almost every year you were like, oh yeah, they're making it to the Super Bowl. Simone Biles literally changed the rules of gymnastics. They put a cap on how hard her routine can be. She was performing at routines so elite that she was in her own bracket. Everybody else was competing in their own bracket, and they said, Simone, you have to compete with everybody else because we can't judge you against anybody else. Which is flattering because, you think to yourself, hey, I'm that good that they have to tell me to, kind of try it down just so other people can try to compete. But at the same time, you can only get as good as you're allowed to go. And they're basically putting a ceiling on how good she can perform, which isn't very nice. But at the same time, if there's no competition, then why would anybody else even try? There's another gymnast as well who people should be on the lookout, and that is Sunisa Lee. She's an 18-year-old. She finished second behind Simone Biles at the Olympic trials and had the highest 4-event total on day 2, the first of any gymnast to top Biles in any day of the competition in more than 8 years. So this girl Lee can really do what she does good. And it looks like the uneven bars is one of her best aspects of the game. Switching to men's gymnastics, Brody Malone is going to take on the USA flag for us in Tokyo in the Summer Olympics. He is a 2-time NCAA all-around champion at 21, and he defeated a 6-time national champion in June to win his first senior all-around title. So both men's and women's gymnastics looking pretty solid out of the gate. Moving forward, we got a couple other athletes here. Alyssa Felix, she's going to be running track and field. She is a 9-time Olympic medalist and will make one last Olympic appearance in Tokyo, competing in the 400 and then possibly the women's 4x400 or the mixed gender 4x400, which that is a new event. So, co-ed, I think you would want to lead with, I think you'd want to go back and forth, go female, male, and then have that man be the anchor at the end. Personally, just because, you get that last 100, you get, a Usain Bolt, you get a Noah Lyles who can just absolutely dust people. Speaking of Noah Lyles, he's also another name to look out for. At 23 years old, he'll be making his Olympic debut and he is the reigning world champion in the 200 meter and won the race at the Olympic World Trials in June. So, I mean, this guy can flat out run. You know, he punched his ticket to Tokyo, and he's looking to make the most of it. Also in track and field, Sydney McLaughlin. She's looking to do the 400-meter hurdles and will be one of the most anticipated races at these Olympics, as she's going head-to-head against Rio gold medalist and U.S. teammate Muhammad. So make sure to be on the lookout for that one. USA versus USA. Hopefully we take home the gold and silver in that bracket. Sticking with track and field, but going to the field aspect of it, Gwen Berry is going to be doing her hammer throw as she did last month at the Olympic trials. She has been pretty active on social media, posting a lot of pictures, claiming, the activist athlete. And honestly, I'm not here to talk about the political aspect of sports. Everybody knows there is a political aspect of sports. I'm just going to be simply addressing the athlete side, and she's a great athlete and a great, well-rounded person. So, tops to her. Carly Lloyd, she's going to be on the soccer team along with Megan Rapinoe. Megan Rapinoe. So make sure to watch those two. The pink hair and iconic pose Megan will be taking it on with this Carly Lloyd. And Carly Lloyd has been doing pretty good. So those two are going to be really good to watch. Kevin Durant is going to be the basketball player to watch. Basketball had a tough couple of games there. Lost against two teams, which really isn't America's style, but it did happen. So Sue Bird for the women's team at 40. Bird, who has 4 championships with the Seattle Storm, is the oldest current player in the WNBA. And let's see if she can get a gold medal. How about that one? Diana Taurasi is also up there. She's 39 years old and a 3-time WNBA champion with the Phoenix Mercury, one of the best shooters in the game right now. So, between those two, we're looking pretty good for women's basketball. Back in the pool, Katie Ledecky, if you saw her in the last Olympics, this Olympics is going to be even more fun to watch. She could probably keep up with some of the men, the way that she swims and how well that she swims. Honestly. And then another swimming person, Simone Manuel. Make sure to keep a lookout on her. She's 24 years old. She won 4 medals, 2 golds and 2 silvers in her first Olympic Games back in 2016 in Rio. Looking to do a little bit better this time around. Caleb Dressel will be swimming for the Olympics, and he has been widely considered the next Michael Phelps. The sprint superstar Dressel is a 6-time world champion and the world record holder in the 100-meter butterfly, 100-meter individual medley, and 50-meter freestyle. So those are honestly the people that you want to look out for in the upcoming Olympics. And, one more. Not really new to the golf scene, but a new name that's really emerged, in my opinion, recently. Bryson DeChambeau will be swinging his clubs with the stars and stripes on his back and probably the front of his polo for the Olympics coming up. And honestly, I'm a huge fan of Bryson DeChambeau, and I think he's going to do a really good job and probably bring home the gold for us if he's got his stroke, timed up perfectly. Before we get too much into NBA, we're going to send it over to Cory. Cory, give us a breakdown. The finals have already started. The Bucks, the Suns. The Bucks are winning right now, and I personally said I thought the Suns were going to do it in 6, but it looks like if the Suns are going to do it, it's got to go all 7. Cory, tell us who you think's going to win. And, give us some insight on it. What do we need to know about this NBA Finals?
Thanks for having me back in the show for another episode. We got some NBA Finals news. The Suns Bucks. So far, it's going into Game 6. The Bucks are up 3-2. They came back from a pretty big series lead with Suns up 2-0. That's obviously a great way to start off your series if you're the Suns. You're up 2-0. The Bucks would have to win 3 straight to take the lead. But they wouldn't have to win 3 straight, but they'd have to win quite a few games. This is pretty big for the Suns. They got their lead, but I feel like after that they just let their feet off the gas, stopped pushing, weren't really as motivated. I think they kind of got lazy and thought they had the series in the bag, and now they're down 3-2. The Bucks got back into the series quite commandingly. The Giannis had 2 40-point games so far in this series. Chris Middleton has 1 40-point game in this series. Devin Booker also had 2 40-point games. Games 4 and 5 were his night. Chris Middleton, in Game 4, Chris Middleton and Devin Booker both had 40 points. Is really a duel between them. In that Game 4, Chris Paul had 10 points, so the Suns were a little short-handed from the fact that they didn't have all their players scoring well and being very efficient in offense. But it was still a pretty close game for the Suns and Bucks. Chris Paul has been widely criticized by a lot of people for being inconsistent in series. He'll go off for 40 to 20 points to 10 points. It's really inconsistent for the Suns, and I feel that kind of hurts them. But that Game 5, I felt he had a solid 21 points to go along with Devin Booker's 40-point game. The Suns came out firing right away. They got a 16-point lead in the first quarter. But then the Bucks, they were able to come back. They chopped the lead down, which is how you want to come back. DeAndre Ayton was punishing the Bucks' switch on defense. They were able to correct that in order to maintain their place in the game. They kept it a pretty close game and eventually survived. In crunch time, with the Suns having quite a few turnovers that I think cost them the game. The turnovers happened on plays where they had a chance to either tie or take the lead. But when you look at the rosters, the Bucks are a much older team. Giannis had more years in the league than DeAndre Ayton has, who he matches up against. This experience for Giannis is very good for him, as he can easily overpower Ayton with that, using his knowledge which he has from playing against big men for the past 8 years, whereas DeAndre Ayton has played against big men for only the past 2 years. The Bucks also have played more centers, teams that revolve more on centers. So Giannis has gotten to warm up this whole time playing against more big men. Moving away from that point, for the Suns to come back in the series, they'll need to win 2 games in order to win the finals. So for them to come back, they'll need to come out hammering like they did in the first quarter of that Game 5. But they also have to maintain that aggression throughout the whole game. Because within minutes of the second quarter, the Bucks overtook that lead and went into halftime up by 2 points. I'm unsure if the reason that the Suns lose their lead is because they take the game not very serious and think that they'll win, or if it's because they are tired. But no matter what the reason is, they need to come out and they need to maintain the aggression that they have usually in the first quarter. They'll also need a decent game from Chris Paul. He'll probably have to score at least 20 points. Devin Booker will probably have to have 30 points. And they also need to feed DeAndre Ayton more, give him more post shots. Because there's been games in the series where he has only had 10 points and only took 10 shots. And there's also been a game in the series where he scored 6 points and only took 9 shots. So definitely have to give him the ball, and though they should look to feed him like they did in Game 5 where he scored 20 points. He went out hammering and really punished the Bucks defense for switching on the pick and roll. But if the Bucks stopped in the pick and roll, then it'll open up the game more for shooters on the team like Devin Booker, Cam Johnson, and Mikal Bridges. Because they have very quick release in their shot and they can get it off before the defense's time to recover. And for the Bucks to win, they just need to keep playing how they've been playing. And if they go down by a lot quickly, just remember there's more time left in the game and there's more time for them to come back. And they also have to only win 1 game out of the potential 2 games left that this series could go to.
Well said, Corey. I couldn't have honestly said it better myself. The way that you worked it through and the way that you told us exactly how well the Suns, spread the court and honestly have a more available three-point shot than the Bucks do, because in an era of new school basketball where you want to spread the court, you want to be taking three-pointers, 30% of the time, the Bucks are an old school team, and they're trying to get the ball in the post, trying to drive, trying to dunk, get the layup. Honestly, they shoot the mid-range shot with Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis, Drew Holiday, maybe undersized, but he gets down in that paint and he doesn't care. So, honestly, I really like the Suns still, even though they're down 3-2 right now. By the way, I didn't say this earlier, but these facts will be accurate as of 10:30, July 19th. I'm still a fan of the Suns. I think the Suns have a better chance of spreading the floor, and they're not really focused on two players. They have three players who can consistently score the ball. They have a fourth and fifth player who can get it done every once in a while. And then the rest of their players are mainly severe role players, where if they were asked to step up in the limelight, I don't think they could. The Bucks, on the other hand, the Bucks have Chris Middleton, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Bobby Portis has a good game every one in 5-6 games. Drew Holiday, if he shows up and he acts like he's still in the Pelicans, he can be a good player. But that's asking a lot. Brook Lopez, super tall, not super physical. If he's got the corner three open, you got to give him the ball because he's going to hit it more times than not. But DiVincenzo, if he's still even playing for the Bucks, honestly, Giannis and Chris Middleton are going to have to carry the team. I do not believe what Stephen A. was true. I do not believe that Chris Middleton is Batman and Giannis is Robin. Giannis is most definitely Batman. You don't win 2 MVPs being a Robin. Sorry, Stephen A. You get paid a lot more than I do, so you can wipe your tears with your $100 bills, but he's not the Robin. Giannis Antetokounmpo is most definitely the Batman in that situation. But with that said, Giannis Antetokounmpo is favored to be the Finals MVP if the Bucks win it, which this will be the first time in a long time that somebody other than a small forward will win the Finals MVP. And just looking down the list right now, it goes Giannis at first for best odds, and then Devin Booker, and then Chris Paul. So the top 3 aren't even small forwards. And the small forward, for those who don't know, that is a position that Kevin Durant, LeBron James... Wow, really skipping on names here. These are some of the best players. Kawhi Leonard, Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, for those who are 76ers fans, Jason Tatum. These are the players who can play like guards, but at the same time, they're tall. I'm talking between 6'6" and 6'9" range. So, the 3 spot, for those who also, number them. The 5 being the center, the 1 being the point guard. I'm talking about number 3, or the small forward. So, I think it's kind of cool, to really change it up, because nobody likes to see the same person win it over and over. That's voter fatigue. But Giannis Antetokounmpo has really stepped it up lately, and according to my main man, Kirk Goldsberry, he's an ESPN staff writer. He's comparing Giannis to Tim Duncan, Charles Barkley, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and honestly, I'd agree with him. You know what, Mr. Goldsberry? You're right. Giannis, this season, has really stepped up, and he's been playing like a round mound to rebound. He's been playing like the big fundamental. He's been playing like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Don't know his nickname off the top of my head. These players are great. These players are remembered for a long time. You don't win 2 MVPs back-to-back years. You don't play in a city like Milwaukee, which is still one of the few small market teams in the NBA landscape, and get noticed like this. I mean, yeah, there's two other Antetokounmpos in the league, but neither of them even come close to starting. Giannis Antetokounmpo is just an entirely different animal. I think he's going to go down. When it's all said and done, if he continues what he's doing, it's going to all go down. I'd give him top 5 power forward of all time. I think he's that good. I think he can get up there in top 5 power forwards of all time. Moving forward, tackling golf. So hang in there with me. The Open Championship just finished, and it was over in England. It was in Kent, England, and it was at Royal St. George's Golf Club. For those who don't know this, looking at it, it's not the traditional Masters, Kelly green, perfect colors. It looks kind of dingy, right? Like marsh. There's marsh in the rough. Looks kind of dingy, not bright colors. There's only one tree in the entire course, and it's not even in play. It's between, I think it's the 13th and 14th hole, and it really doesn't cast that much shade. So, I mean, it's a sunny course. The wind's coming in all the time, so it's right on, it's right on the water. And the guy who ended up winning is Colin Morikawa. He won it, and he was 15 under. Looking at his scoreboard in round 4, he ended up with 4 birdies to put him at, 4 under for the day. But, I mean, this guy had a bogey in the first round, but made it a little bit easier on himself with, 4 other birdies. So he ended 3 under on round 1. Round 2, he really came out the gate strong, and he started with the birdie. And before he had his first bogey, he had 7 birdies, and he ended 6 under. Round 3 didn't start that hot. He went par, bogey, par, bogey. So, after 5 holes, he was 2 over, but then he ended up hitting 4 birdies throughout the rest of the day to get back to 2 under, and then he obviously finished with 15 under. So, he looked really good coming out the gates. I'm not going to lie. He looked really good. But the guy who I honestly liked the most was, he ended up 3rd, a South African man by the name of Louis Oosthuizen. And he finished, tied for 3rd at 11 under. But the first day, he was 6 under par. And that was awesome. The second day, he was 5 under par. And then he really just fell off from there. And finishing his last 2 rounds an average of par. So, it's tough. He finished 11 under, which, if you followed me on the math, it would make sense. But it's tough. You go that well, and then, you eventually just fall off the wagon that hard, and you don't like to see it. The hole that gave the most people troubles, it looks like it was hole number 7. Hole number 7 is a par 5, and it is 566 yards to the pin. And the average score there was a 4.85, so it's still under par. There were 13 eagles on it, which is really well. There's 127 birdies. There were 254 pars, but there was 62 bogeys and then 9 double bogeys. So, not really looking too amazing there. The hole that had the most bogeys, surprisingly enough, though, was hole number 15. Hole number 15 was a par. It was a longer par for it, just under 500 yards. And that had 160 bogeys on it. That's not something you're looking for to really do there. But the top three, back to, the top three, they round out Colin Morikawa at number 1, Jordan Spieth at number 2, and then John Rahm, and then Luis Oosthuizen tied for third, both of them, which both of them are huge fans, or have fans in this household. I am a Luis Oosthuizen fan, and then my dad is a John Rahm fan, which neither of them are from, America, so they're not really home team guys, but I like Oosthuizen because I just like to say his last name, and then my dad likes John Rahm because, he's been on the course for a while, and he hasn't done too terribly bad. Rahm actually started the tournament round 1. He started off 1 over par, and then his second round is what brought him back into it. He finished the first half of the tournament 5 under, and then between the last 2 rounds, he somehow got to 11 under. So, Morikawa, the guy who won the tournament, got $2.1 million, but more importantly, his FedEx points. And for those who don't know what FedEx points are, that's how you're ranked come tournament and major time. So the Open, you want more FedEx points to get a better tee time later in the day. The Masters, a better tee time later in the day. Pick your tournament more or less. And it's really, really important to get these points because you need them moving forward. So 600 FedEx points, really good. 2.1 million, also not really something to squawk at. But, just honestly, good for these guys. Golf is somewhat of a dying sport, but I'm glad to see that they're keeping it relative, keeping it going. Before we get too much further, we're going to jump into MLB with Brock Guse. Brock, the All-Star break just wrapped up. What do we need to know about it?
How's it going, everybody? Brock hopping on, talking a little baseball. A couple days after the All-Star break, I thought it was a great weekend altogether between the Home Run Derby and the All-Star game. Ohtani was kind of the main headliner, even though he got knocked out in the first round in the Home Run Derby. I thought him and Juan Soto had the best round between Juan Soto. He hit the furthest ball ever hit in the Home Run Derby, 520 feet. Ohtani took about a minute or so to get going, but after he did, he was hitting balls. He was hitting balls just as far as anyone. Pete Alonso, obviously, been there, done that. He was just a machine out there hitting balls. Back row of the left field bleachers. Probably hit a few off the scoreboard. He was really running laps around everyone, it seemed like. But anyway, for the game, obviously Shohei leading off, pitching. He was, again, the headliner. Obviously he didn't do much at the plate, but went 1, 2, 3. It's kind of more the fact that he did it is what's impressive, obviously. But Vlad Jr., his first at bat, right up the middle, almost hit Max Scherzer, giving him a hug. And then the next at bat, just hitting an absolute missile into left field. I thought that was pretty awesome. He had a great night, obviously, winning the MVP. Other guys who had good nights, Freddie Peralta from the Brewers struck out the side. Obviously the All-Star game, it's small sample size, couple of bats, 1 inning, but it's good to shine on the national stage. The ratings, obviously, speaking of a national stage, they were above the NBA All-Star weekend and the Pro Bowl by a couple million, so that's good for the game. But going into the second half, some news around town. The Cubs traded Jock Peterson to the Braves for first baseman and single A, I want to say he's in. Obviously, Cubs in sell mode. Not much to really look forward to this year for the Cubs. That 12-game losing streak really dug themselves into a hole. Looked like they were maybe a little, maybe contenders for the division there for a little bit, but obviously you can't really lose 12 games in any part of the season in a row. So Jock gone. You wonder who's going to be next, whether it's going to be Chris Bryant, Wills Contreras, and really anybody. Craig Kimbrell is going to probably a good one to pick. Rizzo, Baez. Some other guys around the league that you could probably look forward to seeing traded is Jose Barrios from the Twins. He's a perennial top pitcher in the American League. Eduardo Escobar, switch hitter from the Diamondbacks. I could see the Brewers maybe being interested. Jose Ramirez from the Indians, another switch hitter who probably draw a lot of interest from teams. There's probably a lot of good other relievers that are going to be moved before the deadline, obviously, like always. But some teams going to the second half to look forward to. The National League, I really think the Brewers are, they got the teams in the NL West, but I think the Brewers might really come out of the National League with that three-headed monster they got. Freddie Peralta, Brandon Woodruff, and Corbin Burns. In a playoff setting, handing the ball to those three guys 3 games in a row, you're really giving yourself a good start, and then being able to close out games with Josh Hader. You got Devin Williams, who's been there before. I mean, they've really been the best team in baseball since they acquired Willie Adames from the Rays. So they're looking to add a bat, like I said, maybe an Eduardo Escobar type. I don't think the Cubs would ever trade anyone in division to him. I mean, maybe, but you never know. But from the American League, I think the Red Sox are looking good. They're hitting the ball well. Their rotation kind of was the question mark coming into the season, but they've kind of weathered the storm. Obviously, they're in first place in the East. The Yankees kind of falling apart still. Chris Sale's back throwing for them, so that'll solidify the rotation a little bit more, bring a little bit more more of a veteran presence. Another team to watch out for is the White Sox. I think those teams are kind of very similar, other than I think the White Sox have a little bit stronger pitching, but I mean, they've kind of got veteran guys at the head of their staffs. They can hit the ball, and they're obviously both leading their division. They're the top dog. Maybe looking forward to some award winners. AL MVP, I would have to give to Shohei. I don't know. I don't see how you don't. If he even comes close to duplicating what he's done this season, or this first half of the season, 33 home runs, 3-something ERA. Obviously, Vlad Jr. is having a great year. He's looking like a Triple Crown candidate. But, I just don't see how you don't give it to Shohei if the season were to end today. Cy Young, I would have to go with Lance Lynn from the White Sox. He's got a sub-2 ERA at the moment. I think he's 9-3. So the top pitchers really belong in the National League, and the top dog is obviously DeGrom. I think he's going to win both awards, National League MVP and Cy Young. So kind of just some things to look forward to in the second half. And, there should be some good baseball being played. So a lot to look forward to.
Guse, great insight as always. You did a great job on the MLB. I'm going to touch on a couple more things here. Looking at the scores right now, holy cow. The game's not over yet. It's the bottom of the 10th right now, but the Mets are beating the Reds 15-11. Which would give a combined score of 26, which isn't even the highest scoring game, in a long time. If we go back just a little bit, the Padres and the Nationals, that game ended 24-8, and Cronenworth hit for the cycle, and then another person on the team, Will Myers, hit a grand slam and a 2-run homer. I don't know if Spider Tack made that much of a difference, but baseballs and scores are flying off the sheets. It's hard to watch if you're a baseball purist because there's really not a whole lot of good pitching left. But these hitters are absolutely killing the ball. There's no excuse behind it. These hitters are absolutely putting charges into these pitches. So it's something awesome to watch. It's awesome to see how well they're doing hitting the baseballs. I personally, I like the low scoring shutout games. I like to make history. Looking at some of the possible names who could be moving around before the season's over, some of the big names, Chris Bryant. Everybody knows that Chris Bryant is going to leave Chicago sooner or later, but is it going to be sooner or later? And he was very collected at the All-Star break. He said it could happen. I could be here for 2 days, 2 months, 2 years, 10 years. It's all up in the air. Looking at who he would probably want to go to or would want to have him, the New York Mets had a lot of interest in him before the season started, but they couldn't shut the door on him. So, that's something to look at. Other names really there. Adam Frazier as a second baseman. That's somebody who you could probably see going in free agency. Somebody moving around, somebody having some fun with it. There's a lot of stuff in the air with free agency. It's hard to say who exactly is going where. But I would not be surprised to also see center fielder Byron Buxton get moved before the deadline because, he's been having a great year this year. Absolutely fantastic. Last year, he was mainly just a defensive glove and then, a speed demon on the base path. But this year, his bat's really stepped up as well. He can get on base with more than just a drag bunt or a normal bunt. This guy can really hit the ball and hit it with power some of the time with power. Hit the ball well with contact a lot of the time. He's no Tony Gwynn, but he's doing decent. And then to wrap up today, we're going to talk about the X Games just real quick. Looking at the X Games, the main thing I really want to talk about, there's a 12-year-old boy named Guse Cory who pulled off a 1080 on the skateboard vert best trick and ends up winning it. And the best part about this is he did it right in front of his idol and most skateboarders' idols, Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk was standing right there on the half pike, and this guy went up, did the 1080, and you could see the expression on Tony Hawk's face. This guy was so happy for him, and I like that the most about sports. Individual sports, there's really two ways to be about it. You can be a bummer, you can be down, you can be, whoa, I have to win, this is all on me. Or you can be an easygoing guy, you can have fun with it. Like Bryson DeChambeau, he had fans kicked out of the course for heckling him, and Kepka bought him all beers. That's literally the two kinds of people we're talking about here. Easygoing, and I have to win at all costs. Those are the two kinds of people, and unfortunately, there's too many of the I have to win at all costs people. Sports are meant to be competitive, but at the same time, you start them and you enjoy them because you have fun doing them. You don't get good because you hate a sport. You get good because you enjoy playing the sport. And eventually, somewhere down the line, for too many people, that falls. That falls apart. I play football in college. Brock Guse plays baseball in college. And Cory Castaneda plays basketball and I believe baseball in high school. And we still play the sport because we love it. We don't play the sport because, other people are vicariously living through us. We play the sport because we want to do it and we love playing the sport. So that's going to wrap it up mainly here for us at the podcast. As always, like, share, subscribe, YouTube, podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get it, Anchor.fm if you're one of the OGs who likes it on there. But yeah, just honestly, have fun with it. If you haven't tried a sport or you haven't done a sport in a while, I have a very fun activity for you. Grab a tennis ball or any squeezy, hand-sized ball of that sort. Look at a wall. Be within 10, 12 feet. Just throw the wall. throw the ball at the wall for a while. Hand-eye coordination. Have some fun with it. Grab your parent, son, grandchild. Go out in the yard. Play catch. Have fun. I mean, it's summer, guys. And if you don't want to do any of those, watch The Sandlot. Preferably on VHS tape because those were the best days. But if you don't want to do any of those, watch The Sandlot, or honestly, just do something with sports. Listening to sports is fine and dandy, but do something with sports. As always, Jacob Kruckenberg, Cory Castaneda, Brock Guse. We love having you guys listen to us. Any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to leave a comment in the YouTube, or you can always reach us at crunchtimewithkruck@gmail.com. Until next time, Jake Krunberg. See you later.